Imagine driving home from work, only to be pulled over. No traffic violation, no broken tail light, just suspicion based on the color of your skin. Now, what if this wasn't a rare event, but a thread woven into your daily life? Welcome to When the Warnings Were Ignored. I'm your host, and today we're embarking on a deep dive into the persistent reality of racial profiling, the dismissed warnings of Black Americans, and the hard lessons emerging as enforcement expands to immigrant communities. What's it like when a society refuses to hear those raising the alarm? Let's break down the domino effect of systemic suspicion and enforcement. Think of profiling like a faulty smoke detector. Ignored too long, it endangers everyone when the fire spreads. Here's the roadmap. We'll start with the lived experiences of Black Americans, explore immigrant perspectives, unpack the mechanics of systemic bias, and end with a call for honest, collective action. Ready for an unflinching look at how warnings, once ignored, become everyone's reality? Let's dive in. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered what it's like to enter a store and feel invisible except for the eyes shadowing your every step? For millions of Black Americans, this isn't paranoia, it's a pattern. Whether it's being trailed by security, questioned in their own neighborhoods, or stopped while driving, these are not isolated incidents. They're a phenomenon known as systemic bias, where suspicion comes standard. You might think, isn't this just a few bad apples? But the evidence says otherwise. The Bureau of Justice Statistics found Black drivers are 20% more likely to be pulled over than white drivers. Statistically significant, not just stories. Profiling, in technical terms, is like a spam filter set too aggressively, blocking legitimate mail along with junk. This isn't just about inconvenience, it's about dignity and about the cumulative psychological toll that comes from being seen as a threat day in and day out. So, when Black Americans spoke up, why weren't they believed? Why do societies so often dismiss warnings from those on the margins? Maybe you've heard someone say, if you haven't done anything wrong, you've got nothing to worry about. It's a comforting illusion called just world assumption, the belief that the system is fair if you play by its rules. But let me challenge you. If fairness is so automatic, why do those following the rules still face unequal treatment? Studies on confirmation bias, our tendency to interpret information to fit pre existing beliefs, explain why many ignored the warnings. Now imagine a hypothetical conversation. That can't really happen here, can it? The answer, as we now know, is yes. Dismissing these experiences delayed, but did not prevent the spread of profiling beyond the Black community. For years, many immigrant families believed they could stay safe by staying quiet. Keep your head down, focus on work, and you'll be left alone. It's a survival strategy called respectability politics, betting that conformity shields you from scrutiny. But what happens when the system changes the rules? Recent waves of ICE raids and immigration enforcement have shattered that illusion. Suddenly, people who felt invisible discovered that, under systems of suspicion, no one stays unseen forever. Now, you might wonder, did these communities ignore warnings out of arrogance or out of hope? Most likely, it was the hope that the rules would hold. But as enforcement expands, reality intrudes. Let's talk about escalation. When enforcement tools like checkpoints, raids, and surveillance are normalized for one group, it's only a matter of time before others feel their reach. Think of mission creep when an institution built for a narrow purpose extends its power to new areas, often unchecked. Today, workplace raids and early morning arrests have become more frequent. The concept of dragnet policing, casting a wide net on suspicion rather than evidence, means entire communities are swept up, not just individuals. So I'll ask directly, who's next? History shows that the tools of suspicion, once deployed, rarely stay confined to their original targets. Here's the crux: profiling means being treated as a suspect based on appearance, language, or neighborhood before any evidence is even considered. Let's borrow two terms. Pretextual stops, legal jargon for stopping someone for a minor reason to investigate something bigger, and implicit bias, the subconscious associations we all carry. Now, picture this: you're stopped not for what you've done, but for what someone assumes you might do. The emotional impact: anxiety, anger, and a persistent sense of vulnerability. This isn't just inconvenient, it's a daily erosion of trust between communities and the institutions meant to serve them. If suspicion comes first, can justice ever follow? History has a pattern. Systems of control don't stay neatly contained. Consider the term legal precedent. What's once justified for one group can become the template for broader action. Remember stop and frisk policies? Initially targeted, then expanded. Let me tell you a story. After 9/11, surveillance programs created for counterterrorism soon swept in Muslim, South Asian, and Arab communities, then later, activists and journalists. Once the apparatus exists, its reach grows. When Black Americans warned that unchecked profiling could spread, it wasn't just about them. It was a forecast ignored, but now unfolding. Here's the uncomfortable truth: no community is immune when suspicion becomes systemic. Immigrants now face the same fear Black families have described for generations: an ordinary day interrupted by the suspicion of authorities. This is collective vulnerability, the recognition that what affects one can affect all. You might ask, isn't this just politics? But the reality is much more personal. When power is wielded based on category, not conduct, everyone's safety is at risk. So, what now? The first step is listening. The warnings weren't exaggerations, but early alerts to a system capable of expanding beyond its original boundaries. For too long, injustice in America has been discussed in separate rooms: Black communities on policing, immigrants on deportation, others on housing and jobs. But these issues are linked by intersectionality, how multiple systems of oppression overlap, and structural racism, which is like a building's foundation, invisible but supporting everything above. Now, imagine a roundtable where communities actually listen, share data, and strategize together. Suddenly, patterns emerge earlier, and solutions become possible. If we remain siloed, the warnings stay unheard. If we unite, we build awareness and power. So, what if the next warning isn't ignored but amplified? Maybe then the next crisis can be prevented, not just endured. Let's bring this home. First, ignoring warnings about profiling doesn't make them vanish, it simply delays their broader impact. Second, the mechanics of suspicion, like pretextual stops and implicit bias, affect more than one group. Third, real change starts with honest listening, because structural problems need collective courage. Here's one action step: reach out and listen to stories from communities different from your own, not with judgment, but with empathy. Data like that 20% higher stop rate for Black drivers matters, but lived experience brings these numbers to life. Next episode, we'll explore how communities are building coalitions to confront these systems. Can we turn awareness into action? If today's warnings were ignored, tomorrow's may finally be heard. If this resonated, share the episode, and let's keep the conversation going, because history only repeats when its lessons go unlearned.